You're watching Twin Tier Sunday with Jennifer Sheahen.
Welcome to Twin Tier Sunday. I'm your host, Jennifer Sheahen. Just a few weeks ago, the one and only officer and chief of police of the borough of Tioga, Pennsylvania, resigned. Today, we find out what the community is doing to come together to make sure their home is safe.
You didn't get me a car. You pay me $11.55 an hour. You pay me less than $18,000 a year to protect your community. And then I continue to get flack. I continue to get pressure. Why? I wish I knew to this day why. I was hired in June of this year, 2014. I've worked there for about 7 months until my resignation as of the 31st of December. I was able to secure a K-9 unit and was the chief of police of title for the borough.
Now, when I was down at the meeting this past week, they had talked about how you'd actually become an integral part of the community, and there were several teenage boys there saying that, you texted them every now and then, but they looked up to you. Now, what was your experience like while you were down there serving?
It was wonderful, actually. I like to believe that an officer should take proprietary, ownership of the borough or of the area which they patrol. And by doing that, you have to get to know the people that live in the borough. And it was an honor to get to know them, because it always had been about them and about getting to know the people. And the youth especially. In my past, I've done that with the DARE program in the past. So it was an honor.
Oh, very, very good. What kind of crime is actually happening in Tioga? Is it kind of your everyday break-ins, or is it meth labs and different things like that, drug deals? What kind of crime did you see while you were serving there?
From my experience, before I got into the office, the crimes were the drugs, crimes that come with drugs, burglary, vandalism, robberies. When I started in June, that had dissipated. The people did no longer walk the street doing the drugs, doing their drug deals. They actually either avoided the borough or weren't there at all, altogether. Of course, you can't eliminate drugs altogether, but we did a good job in eliminating most of that. While I was there, it was thefts, it was the petty crimes, very little serious crimes at all. The deterrence that I provided with a mixed schedule, with the ability to keep them on their toes, if you will, not knowing when I was going to be there, I believe deterred a lot of the things that were happening from the outreach, different communities outside of Tioga. And as of now, I cannot speak to what the crimes are happening now. I'm not there.
How was it working with the neighborhood watch group down there? I know that at that point, before you resigned, they had like 2 meetings or something like that, correct? How was it working alongside with them when, they were getting their feet off the ground as a group?
It was good. I wanted to, actually the first month I was there, I wanted to start a community watch program. And I kept talking to several residents as to, it has to be the residents to start it. It had to be the residents to take that initiative and the step forward, but I could be the resource for them and help them start that. So it was an honor when they came to me and said, hey, we want to do this. Working with them, it was great. I think it's definitely a different dynamic when there's 2 different townships working together. But I think they're on the right path now that they can actually be successful.
Okay, so come, this past week you made a pretty vocal resignation with the borough. Why did you choose to do it in that manner, and then what led up to this decision for you? I mean, we're the only guy there, the only guy they relied on, and now you've left the department, I guess, if you call it for one guy. So what led you to do that?
Well, first off, it was a tough decision, because I know my responsibility was to protect that borough. It was a decision that my wife and I made with the continued discrepancies that I had with the borough council, the continued reduction in my authority. The last issue was the schedule issue, where the mayor decided that she was going to take control of the schedule. And to me, I took the job as a chief of police. And for them, they just want an officer in the car, and that's unfortunate. The reason I made it public, I guess, on Facebook and make it known, and I appreciate you contacting me, is because I wanted the truth to be known. I wanted everyone to understand why I did what I did, which was pretty clear in my letter of resignation. Had nothing to do with slamming anyone or belittling anyone on the council. It had everything to do with explaining to the community the decision I had, how hard it was for me to make that decision, but that ultimately for me and my family, I had to make that decision.
And what were some of the key things that made that decision for you? Was it pay? Was it that they wanted to track your hours? What exactly was the turning point in that for you?
I think a lot of it was the micromanaging. It was the taking of control of my responsibility as chief into their hands.
What does that exactly mean?
Well, first would be scheduling. The scheduling done, which the mayor has every right in a borough like that to do the scheduling. However, in my opinion as a chief of police, I believe I had a better idea when the scheduling should have been done, when an officer was needed, and the track record for the past 7 months of keeping the crime out at the scheduling that I was doing. Why that was taken away from me, I don't know.
Do you think scheduling when an officer is and is not on duty kind of is an open door for criminals to say, you know what, Chief Hayes isn't going to be here tomorrow between noon and 5, let's do our business then, and then we know he comes in at 5, we'll shut the door and be quiet till he's gone?
That's the most difficult part about being one officer in one department, is keeping your schedule secret and keeping that from the public. I can't say that the mayor would give that information out. I don't know, and I would trust and hope that she wouldn't. But I believe it does compromise my ability to keep those criminal elements on their toes, because on top of, as you mentioned, pay, on top of the scheduling, pay was an issue. The pay that they paid, the salary that I was receiving at $11.55 an hour, didn't pay my bills for my family. So I had to have a part-time job outside of that position. Well, when that scheduling change happened, it no longer allowed me to have that position, and no longer allowed me to responsibly take care of my family.
Yeah. Because, I mean, what is the, maybe you can or cannot answer this, what does the average officer, or chief, I should say, make then?
And I can, because I did the legwork on it. The average chief in Tioga County, in that area, makes between $30,000 and $32,000, which is about $15,058 an hour.
So definitely a significant amount more than what they were offering to.
More, yes.
Now, talking to the residents, there were a few of them that said they had offered you kind of like a tax-free home or something that they were looking into. Can you explain that? And they said that you were actually willing to do that, but that's something that the borough did not want to move on.
Yes. According to some of the council members, that was something they weren't willing to do. I proposed it actually at a township meeting when we were talking about shared services for the borough in the township. And I said, well, let's think outside the box here. I understand that money is tight, and people have, you know, the tax base is low in that area. So let's think outside the boxes. Churches and other organizations offer housing for the family, and that is a big savings. Well, you know, let's put it. I mean, if you have a salary plus a housing allowance, which would be a house, that would be wonderful for my family. That would allow my family and I to move into the area, to be part of that community, and to be available 24/7 without a question.
And that just didn't fly?
That wasn't even an option to either the township or the borough.
Okay, so what were some of the other things? I know that you had brought some paperwork with you here today. What were some of the other things that you set this situation kind of down the wrong path?
Well, I think from the get-go, the history that was at the Tioga Borough Police Department was that they had officers that weren't experienced, that didn't understand the responsibility as chief of police. So unfortunately, that put a bad taste in their mouth for an officer. I wish really I knew why they hired me in June to do the position that I did. I think that I surprised them. Several meetings, as I've said, they've said I've gone above and beyond their expectations. So I know that they weren't expecting to have an officer, a professional officer such as myself. But there were some issues such as safety issues with the vehicle. There was safety issues with my office, the actual security of the office. Dissemination of personal information from certain council members to the public, and confirmation of that on Facebook being published by residents of Tioga Borough. And on top of that, just I believe the harassment of the micromanaging that slowly led and continued to build until on the 29th of December, I finally, you know, I decided with my wife that this was just not something I could continue to do.
Now, do you think that having an officer in the borough is off the table in the future? Because I think that was something that I had heard chatter about while I was at the neighborhood meeting is that there may be a few borough members who don't even want there to be an officer.
Well, it's been publicly known and publicly said there are 2 borough members, council members, that are not in support of the police department. But November comes and there's an election time. So if they can get council members in there that support the police, and they can have an understanding as to how a police department should be run, and that the trust and responsibility should be given to an officer, especially myself with 15 years experience, I think they can be successful. But I think there's a long road for that to happen for the borough of Tioga.
Why do you think they don't want a police officer? I mean, that seems like an everyday kind of a thing where you want the best for your people and the best kind of safety for your people, yet this is something they don't want to deliver on.
Yeah, I wish I knew that answer. I can only surmise that personal actions, or as I said in the past, maybe the dirty taste in their mouth from other officers that were less than professional, that they had some issues with, that led to a disdain for law enforcement, and they just have never got that. I don't understand why for the last 7 months I've proven myself and they couldn't at least start to get past that in respect to law enforcement, and professional law enforcement at that. So I really couldn't tell you exactly what the reason is.
So again, at the neighborhood watch meeting, when I went down this past week, I chose not to do an interview during this period because going into it, I'd heard it was going to be kind of a battle of the borough and the township, and it was going to be like this ultimate Titan situation, and everybody was going to be colliding. And when I sat down in the back of the room, things were calm. They were talking about hot spots and what they were going to do, and how they may get different grant funding, and where they were going to get it from, and how they were going to move forward as a borough and as a township together. And there was almost a sense of calm. Now, I was speaking with a few of the members after the meeting, and I asked them, I was like, well, do you think, since now this political, I guess, game between the chief and the borough is gone, do you think that now things will be calm and you guys can move forward? They said, in a way, yes, because then they loved you. They said they loved you no matter what, they supported you, but ultimately they just wanted a police officer. I guess, how do you feel now, knowing that this situation, now that you're not here, may be a little bit more calm?
I hope for their sake it is. I hope that they can be successful in the Community Watch program. My intent and my sole priority here has been for that community, whether I'm there or not. So, I don't take anything personal from that. There was, and it wasn't personal with me, there was definitely tension between the council and myself. And I don't think that would have changed if it was a different person than me. But I do believe that, I hope that at least from my conversations with the borough and the Community Watch members, that they understand that their community is first, and that ultimately they need to take care of themselves, regardless of what officer's in the position and what council member is.
So you should be happy knowing this one. I was talking with them, and 2 of them told me that until you came forward with your resignation and until you fought for the rights of your position, they never even had the confidence to do it for themselves. And they learned from you that they could stand up for themselves and fight for the better of their community and their town. What do you take away from that?
It's humbling. I appreciate that very much so. I'm glad that what I could do, even in small part, could affect them in that way. I think that's what we're supposed to do on this earth. I think regardless of what position we're in, whether we're chief of police or whether we're just a resident that needs to feel protected and safe in the community, I hope that everyone will somehow encourage each other to take an active role, whether it be in government, whether it be in their community watch program. But I'm honored. That's a humbling statement.
Good. I'm glad. So what's the best steps moving forward for them as a community, the borough, the township? I guess any advice for those who might be listening right now for the future of Tioga area, PA?
I think you need to come together. You need to work as one. The division kills, and if you divide, whether that be from political standpoints of the council versus police or the borough versus township, that needs to go. There's no invisible borderline between the town and the borough. What affects the borough affects the township, and I think the best idea for them is to move forward and work towards having a shared services law enforcement department that can provide protection for all of the residents, not just in the borough, but in the township as well. So that would be my recommendation. You know, it's unfortunate that I can't do that for them, but I hope that in the future that all of the good people of the borough are protected and have that right to be protected.
Now, just kind of throwing this one out there, what if they, you know, the November elections come and things get mixed up and they ask you to come back? Would you do it?
I think there would have to be some discussion between myself and the council and some agreeing, and I would have to be in that position and my family to make that decision.
After reaching out to the borough of Tioga several times, they declined to speak to WENY TV. Coming up after the break, we talk to the Tioga Township Board to see what their plans are moving forward.
So we're here now with a few of the members of the Township of Tioga. Now, you guys, tell me a little bit about the Neighborhood Watch Group and how it started forming in the township, separate from the borough.
Well, good old rural communities aren't the same anymore. We started having a little problem as far as drug-related theft, and I guess it's time to do something about it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you guys at one point had reached out for shared services with the borough. Is that correct?
Yes, we'd like to work with the borough as much as possible. At the time, they had a police officer, and we were willing to give him time to patrol our community, too.
Okay. As far as the community watch goes, how many of your, I guess, members within the community do you think are participating actively in that?
I'm not really sure of that question.
We've had about 20 here.
Yeah.
A couple, 3 times now.
Yeah,
So
different meetings. There's been about 20 of them here.
So they did join it at some of our regular township meetings and have a discussion.
No, that's wonderful. And what are some of the things that they're doing to prevent crime in the area now that there is no one, you know, stationed here as an officer? Even, you know, the borough is literally like right next door. So even if they were to call the borough and say we need help, what are they doing now that there's not even that on the table?
One of the biggest things I think they've done is really bring the community together, and Tioga Township residents and the borough residents working together on this neighborhood watch, and that'll make a big difference. They've set up patrols and patrol in the area as much as they can, and we're trying to get involved with the state police where they'd come in and meet with the community watch. Hopefully they will do that. As of now, I don't think they've met with them. And just do any angle we can to improve our community.
Wonderful. So right now, if something does happen, a crime happens, do you guys call the state police or the sheriff? How does that work?
We have to rely on the state police.
How long, I guess, sometimes could it take for someone to respond?
20 minutes.
yeah, to an hour or better.
To an hour or better. So if someone gets shot in their home or robbed in their home, then that's going to be quite a
That
bit of
might
time.
speed them up a little bit, but for a theft or something like that, something minor, they've been a little slow. They're really spread out. I think their force is bare minimum too, you know.
And then where do you guys see going here from the future? Are you going to stick with just having a neighborhood watch, or do you think that if the borough decides to have a police officer fill that spot, that you'll end up trying to work
We'll
with them?
absolutely try to work with the borough all we can as far as getting time for our community too, to be patrolled. But like I told the crime watch, the neighborhood watch, at our meeting, no matter what you do and get one person on a police force, they cannot make the complete difference in our area.
Well, thank you so much. It's time to meet now with the actual neighborhood watch group and see how they're moving forward with this whole entire situation and the good things that they're actually starting to come out of it as well. We'll see you in just a bit. All right, so I just want to start off with who here is in the township and who is on the borough. So who's in the township here? Okay, anybody else from the township at this meeting? And everybody else in the borough. And now, do you guys feel, though, in the neighborhood watch, there's about an even amount of people in the township and borough participating at this point?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I think there's more borough people that's been participating than the township.
Okay, so that's first off. How did you guys start this group?
Started a Facebook page after our township supervisor said that, you know, the police officer, it's nice to have joint services, but if he he can't do it all by himself. We as the community need to get up and start running with it and do a neighborhood watch and putting cameras up around our homes and stuff like that. So I started a Facebook page.
After Officer Hayes or Chief Hayes left, did you guys feel more pressure to come together as a group now that you really had no support at this point, other than the state police?
Personally, I do, because it is kind of hard to get state police out, but I feel that the neighborhood watch really needs to step up a little more now, yes.
Okay, and anybody else?
I think it was important for us to realize that it wasn't just Officer Chief Hayes in the position, that we were supporting the position itself, not a person in the position, but we knew that we wanted to have shared services and work with the borough and the township together. So we were looking at trying to make this all work so we would have better services for the borough and the township.
That's okay. We also knew that just one officer was not going to be the answer to everything, so that we all needed to stand up and take care of our community.
Wonderful. What are some of the ways you guys are policing the community right now?
I know my sons and I, we drive around at night and go all over the streets of the borough and into the township. And if we see something suspicious, we write it down in I have a little notepad that I take with me, and we write it down in there, license plate numbers, anything like that we see out of the ordinary.
Now, is that the same with you guys? Is that how everything's been kind of going about at the moment?
I take walking.
Have you seen anything suspicious so far, or
Not
anything?
really, little things, but nothing major. No people, but we saw some drugs and we picked them up and destroyed them.
Okay.
They were on the street.
Now, I noticed too during the meeting that I was at this past week, there was a lot of conversation about, like you said, driving around and patrolling on your own. Who is paying for the residents' gas to do that?
Doing it ourselves.
Do it ourselves. That's the point of the neighborhood watch, is it's us volunteering. It's not a paid position to do.
Okay, so here's something that the community's taking up just so they have their own safety.
Right.
So why is it that you guys are choosing to do this on your own time? It's kind of, along with your other jobs and everything else that goes on with daily life.
We all know right from wrong, and we can name what's wrong. And now it's time that we took action against those wrong things. We've all sat back too long saying, "Ooh, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right." And now it's the time where we have to step up and say, "It's not right, and we need to do something about it." It's our responsibility as citizens of this town and the borough and the township to go together and fight what's wrong. Not just to step back.
We're such a small community. We all need to just work together anyways.
Taking care of each other. Then.
Yeah.
And we're also keeping track of the amount of hours that we're logging in for the borough and the township, so they're aware that if the town and the borough, residents of these communities, are putting in this much time, then it's letting them know that we definitely need the services of having a police officer in the borough and the township.
When I was here as well, you guys talked a lot about trying to get grants not only for a possible police officer position, but for streets and roads and things. Therefore, the borough or the township could then reallocate those funds towards a police officer. Why is it that you guys are choosing to take on that task other than the borough taking on that task as a local government?
Because it shouldn't be all up to them to do it. We need to work together. Again, we go back to we need to work together as a community, not sit and hate each other.
Our borough doesn't get paid funds. Everything they do is volunteer. So they already have so many committees and so many things that they're trying to do to improve the town of Tioga with no boundaries, the town of Tioga altogether. So we just wanted to show the borough and the township that the members of the community will come together no matter what the situation.
So how is that been? Have you seen any major crime, or do you think that if something bad were to happen, like the murder that just happened not too far from here, the parents of that young woman live here in your very own town, do you think that if something happened like that here, God forbid, there would be the correct response for that?
Yeah. I had a cousin killed 18 years ago on the basketball court here.
You've had a police officer during that time as well.
And we had a police officer at that time and did nothing.
I think having a police officer is more of a deterrent than anything, but it's not going to stop it. And I think, it's the same thing with the neighborhood watch. we can do what we can do, but it's going to be more of a deterrence for them to try to come in here than it is going to eradicate them out of here. Nobody wants to see the drugs and the crime in our community. We all have reasons why we're here, whether it be, we have family members that live here. Either we've been affected by it, or, we have to do something for our kids that are in school now and the younger generation that's going to be coming up before it gets any worse. We just have to try to nip it in the bud.
But crime happens anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter what time of day. It's just, an officer is not going to, like they said, it's not going to be the full answer to anything. It is a deterrent, but we need to take our town back.
To go with that deterrent idea, when they had the town cop here in just the borough, he can't go into the township really to do anything. Yet, yes. That's why we're asking for shared services, so we can get him to be able to come into the township as well. But during the time that Officer Hayes was here, we did have an incident on my road, just down the road from me, where a kid was slunched over in his steering wheel in his car with a needle in his arm, and they had to call the state police out. And because they're so strapped right now with people as well, it took an hour before a state trooper come out.
So it's definitely a temporary, I guess, like you guys are here, but it is kind of a temporary fix.
Yeah.
And
Trying to make it a long-term.
Yeah.
We're trying to get the shared services, so this is a long-term solution to our problem of at least having some kind of services that we can provide a level of safety that with an officer who is working and the community members working together, that we have some form of a level of safety that we're all comfortable with, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
And it can't just be a handful.
how many people what is the response that has been so far with the community? I know when I was here, I saw about 20 people, 20, 25.
Attendees in the last meeting that we had.
Yeah.
It was 28.
Our average
We've
is
had
about
more,
20
yeah.
to 25.
The very first one we had a lot, but that was the borough and the township first
And
of all together.
Lawrenceville also, there were several.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had some people from Lawrenceville
really?
come here because
Yep.
they wanted to know what we were doing neighborhood watch-wise, because they want to implement it in Lawrenceville as well.
We're trying to have the situation not leave our town to go to the next town, but to have that town be ready for them to come there as well and say, you're not welcome here either. So we're trying to, assist them in saying, we're just starting, and they're watching us to see what we're going to be doing.
We are all really, Tioga, Lawrenceville, Millerton, Jackson Summit, all of us are in Elkhorn. It's our community because it's the school.
Our goal is to protect the residents, either Neighborhood Watch, Borough Council. Our goal is united to protect our citizens, our residents.
And we're just community members. I mean, we're not out there to confront criminals or take down anyone. It's just, we need to observe and report. So that's the message we're sending to our folks.